Go back to fluorescent lights. A good friend of mine, Mark Davison from 1000 Watt, who's just this creative branding genius, comes to my office, I don't know, a month and a half ago, and he walks in and he puts on these yellow, it looks like hunting kind of glasses, right? That whatever
blue light
yellow,
blockers.
yeah. And he said, I can't do the lights. It just impacts me in so many bad ways. And we didn't go into it. I just said, it's just another cool thing that Mark does, whatever. So what is that? Fluorescent lights, what should we be doing?
We should replace them when we can with grow lights
Mm-hmm.
that have full spectrum lights, because the fluorescent light's not for everybody, but for some people agitates them.
Yeah.
And irritates them and gives them headaches. There's an interesting syndrome I talk about in my new book called the Irlen syndrome, I-R-L-E-N. And these are people that light really disrupts their brain. They have depth perception problems, so they have trouble catching balls. They have, you see them at the mall. These are people who have a terrible time getting on escalators. So most of us just walk on. But these people stand at the bottom and then they watch. And then with a lot of anxiety, they get on because their depth perception is not right, because light is interfering with some of the pathways in their brain. Depth perception, headaches, especially when they read. They're often anxious. They look like they have ADD. And when they read, words move on the page. So either blurry, halo, words move. And when they put on colored filtered lenses, all of it goes away. And the Irlen syndrome is very common after head trauma. And so the treatment is colored filtered lenses. Some of my NHL players, because I have a number of NHL players, actually one of them just won the Stanley Cup, he wears a tinted mask because he's a better hockey player. Because his depth perception is right. So if you have headaches, if you have night driving problems, and there's a self-test on the Irlen website, irlen.com. It's miraculous for the people who have it. The colored lenses. My sister-in-law, who we talked about, the one who had problems with addiction, she also had 19 car accidents. And she was embarrassed to tell me. She said, I see these blue halos around things. She thought I was going to think she was psychotic.
Yeah.
And she had the worst case of Irlen I'd ever seen. And we screened her, treated her, and now she's just so much better.
So let's go back to this Mindstorm thing is fantastic. Okay, what's the I?
Immunity and infections.
Okay.
So we want to strengthen your immune system. Think vitamin D, get your gut right again. And if your brain is going the wrong way, someone should screen you for things like Lyme and herpes, this thing called toxoplasmosis, which toxoplasmosis is a parasite that you get from cats, from stray cats.
Okay.
And the story is really funny, that this parasite actually infects lots of different animals, but it can only sexually reproduce in rats. And so when it infects a rat, it turns the rat into a cat-seeking missile. So it actually works on the dopamine centers of the rat's brain to love cat urine. And so when it smells cat urine, it goes toward it rather than away from it.
Fascinating.
And the cat eats the rat. Toxo gets to have sex and reproduce. So it's the classic tale of eat, pray, love.
Just in a really bad way.
Just in a really bad way. And it's one of the causes of suicide. And it's one of the causes of psychosis. Easy to call people bad, harder to go. Why?
So what about things like Echinacea? Like I do a ton of Echinacea. Do you know Dr. Schultz? Is that Richard Schultz? That ring a bell from Santa Monica? He's like the guy that my wife studied, back in the early 90s. Like he was the one that you went to and said, okay, I've got an ulcer coming out of my body that's the size of a basketball, and the doctors basically said, go home and die.
Right.
And he would say, well, why don't we instead flush out your entire body and do a 6-week detox. We're going to do enemas every day. We're just going to clean you out. And people get freaked out when we say that stuff. But, he would literally say, you're full of shit. He created an Echinacea product that I've used for years, right? superfoods, green foods, all this kind of stuff. So any input on that? I'm just thinking about like building
whatever
up our
you
immune
can do to
system.
build your
Yeah.
immune system, you want to do it. And colorful plants is
Yeah.
the best way,
Yeah.
along with getting rid of the things that hurt your microbiome, just
Yeah.
like we talked about.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what's the end?
Neurohormone deficiencies, so important. Low thyroid, low testosterone, low DHEA, growth hormone, all of these things, they're neurohormones. I'm in a new movie, hopefully be released this fall, called Quiet Explosions with my friend Mark Gordon. And we take 10 people who have serious brain problems, either emotional problems or head trauma. One big wave surfer, Sean Dollar's in it, Mark Rippon, who's the Super Bowl MVP quarterback from the Redskins. And we do our magic with them. And the stories are just so beautiful about how your brain can heal. And one of the primary interventions is testing your hormones. You can't
Goes back to
change
your blood
what you
work. Yeah.
don't measure, and then optimizing them either with precursors or the hormones actually themselves. I think of them as miracle grow for your brain.
Yep. And
if they're not optimal, you're not optimal. Because I can have a normal testosterone level for a 65-year-old, but do I really want that?
No. No.
And I don't want a 15-year-old's
No.
level because
Walk around, hey.
No, I don't want that. But I'm okay with a 40-year-old level,
Yes,
right? Where I have
exactly.
energy and strength and vitality. I'm not okay with doing what is normal.
Yes.
Because normal, quite frankly, sucks.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially
I agree.
for my age.
Yeah. Well, hey, for my age, I'll be 50 in T-minus 13 months. And I started doing, like, looking at my hormones when I was 40, trying to figure out,
See, that's
why am
the
I
sign.
tired all the time? Like, that was my, like, why am I tired? And it was Brad Davidson, right, our mutual friend Brad, who said, well, when was the last time you had your blood work done? I'm like, probably not since, like, 1997. He's like, yeah, we might want to do that. As soon as I saw my blood, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, it's obvious what I have to do.
What most people don't know is concussions damage the pituitary gland, which is the master hormone gland.
Interesting.
And often you get this, all of them are low. And so I want to know what's optimal.
Yeah.
Because I want to be my optimal
Yes.
self, not my predicted self or
Yes.
my normal self.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
normal in this country is sick. If you're blessed to live to 85, like my dad, you have a 50% risk of having dementia. You have a 1 in 2 chance of having lost your mind. I'm not okay with that.
No.
And,
No.
in the next 5 years, I'll be 70. I'm not okay with a 70% chance of having erectile dysfunction. I'm not okay with that.
No.
So if you're not okay with that, then none of these interventions we've talked about today are hard.
Yeah.
None of these are hard unless you're okay with the status quo.
Okay, I'm going to switch gears before we do the D and the S. Neurolink. What do you think about Neurolink, the new company that Elon Musk has put together?
I'm skeptical of all these things that say they can read your mind
Yes.
and that mind to mind can happen through a computer. I think it makes great fiction.
Yes.
I haven't seen anything that shows this is going to be ready for prime time in my lifetime.
Yeah,
We'll see.
I think they said 2035.
I'll still be around,
Yeah,
hopefully.
yeah, we'll be around. But I mean, just conceptually, the thought of putting in a supercomputer into my brain, I think I would be one of the first to line up for it and say, let's go for it. There's just something about that. Maybe I can't think of the name of the movie, but the handsome actor who takes the pill, who goes from being a loser to being the most.
Oh, Bradley
Yeah,
Cooper.
yeah.
And
Limitless, right? I mean, like I look at that and go, I'd take that pill, right? Like there's just something
so
about
you
like
want
I
to
text
do
you,
it like
brain optimization.
10 years after. Let them perfect it before, because so many of the medicines.
Yes.
I learned this, because I was like a young resident.
Yeah.
New medicine.
Yes.
Better science, and then 4 years later, they're like, this causes seizures. You need to not do that.
Yes.
So some caution.
I
Now
know.
I'm
I know.
what do they call them? I'm an early adopter with
So am I.
imaging. But for everything else, I'm sort of the next stage.
Yeah.
Right, I'm
Yeah.
not the dinosaur, but which gets us to D, which is diabesity.
There we go. Say the word again.
Diabesity.
What is that?
It's a combination of being diabetic or pre-diabetic and being overweight or obese.
Got it.
50% of the American population is diabetic or pre-diabetic.
That is
It's insane.
insane.
That's a study from JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association. 14% of us have diabetes, 36% are pre-diabetic. And as your blood sugar goes up, atrophy of your brain goes up too. It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Blood sugar is a disaster.
Is this just the fast food, revolution of America?
It's that and toxins. There's a great book called The Toxin Solution, and he actually argues that toxins are a bigger cause of diabetes than obesity, but neither one of them is good for you. And then 70% of us are overweight, 40% of us are obese. It's the biggest brain drain in the history of the United States. I published 2 studies. As your weight goes up, the size and function of your brain goes down.
I'm just finally saying, if you haven't read this book, everyone that's looking, this is the book that changed it all for me. And I'm sorry, I'm interrupting, but this is it. If they just go back to these core principles, just while we're here, because since school is right around the corner.
Change your brain, change your grades.
Can you talk about this just for a second? I know we're talking about all the unhealthy people out there, but talk about this just for a second, right? You just sent me this. I started scanning it. I've got a kid going into college. I got a kid going into his second year of college. And I'm thumbing through this, and I'm feeling like a bad dad. I should have been doing things differently is what was going through my head.
Well, what is the organ of learning? It's your
brain.
brain. If
The
you
brain.
don't focus on getting your brain right, you're going to have a harder time. And if they have to repeat or take an extra year of college, it's like $60,000 or more than that.
Exactly.
And so, first thing, get your brain right. Your mind will follow. And so change your brain, change your grades, teaches kids how to love their brain, get it right.
Yep.
And then there's practical stuff. Because I was actually not a very good student in high school because I was distracted and working. And I was a phenomenal student in college because I learned how to do it. You have to show up and you have to be nice to the teacher. And one of the secrets from the book is if you read what they're going to talk about in class ahead of time, it's a triple benefit. Because one, you're getting exposed to words and things you don't know and concepts. The teacher's going to reinforce it. You're also going to ask more intelligent questions. And so once you get your brain right, it's then a strategy on how you can excel, even in hard classes like calculus and anatomy and physiology and so on.
Yes. All the ones that my boys are like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to be a doctor anymore.
Right.
Dad, talk to me about getting my real estate license. All right. Back to any other thoughts on this? So say it for me again. Diabesity?
Diabesity.
I want to make sure I'm saying
so
that
it's
right.
this combination. So this is where your toxins, you want to detox your body, but you got to get your food right.
Yeah.
And people go, you should have 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. In my mind, I think you should have 9.
Wow.
Because you will actually poop more and you will have more nutrients because the nutrients really do come from plants.
Yeah.
And so we have all sorts of recipes and things. And
your wife wrote a book on this. Or a book or 2.
Tana wrote
a
number of cookbooks. Brain Warrior's Way is her favorite one.
That was a great book, by the way. Great. Yeah, everyone check that one out as well.
And then the S is sleep. When you don't sleep, it actually turns off 700 health-promoting genes and makes you more likely to be sick.
What's the optimal number of hours we should be asleep?
For most people, it's about 7.5 because we have these 90-minute cycles. So people go 8 hours.
Yeah.
It's like, no, people sleep 8 hours. They generally wake up foggy.
Yeah.
So it's about 7.5. On average, in 1900, we got 9 hours of sleep at night.
Yeah.
And now we get 6.5. And you can't go through that kind of change in such a short period of time without a dramatic negative impact on our society.
Absolutely. I'm actually on my sleep cycle app right now. I'm tracking. I'm on night number 2032, and I'm at 7 hours and 5 minutes on average of sleep.
Yeah. So I would say that's great
Yeah.
because you love your brain.
Absolutely. And I know if I get that rest, it's when you feel good, you perform good. It's that simple.
Well, and
right?
when you
and I
sleep-
need the rest to feel good.
We just learned this, that when you sleep, your brain cleans or washes itself. And
Yeah.
we didn't know that before,
Yeah.
that actually you have this called a glymphatic system. You know, we have lymphatic
Yes.
systems throughout
Yeah.
our body, but not in our brain. And so they thought our brain just didn't have one.
Yes.
But they found it recently. Isn't that amazing that we just found something that we didn't know?
And it's the glymphatic
System.
And it washes
which
the brain.
washes the brain, but it only turns on when you're asleep.
Yes.
So it's sort of like trickles during the day and turns on at night.
Yes.
And so if you're not sleeping, trash builds up, making it harder for you to think and increasing your risk of Alzheimer's disease. So, for example, Winston Churchill and Margaret Thatcher only slept 4 hours a night, and both of them died with dementia.
Yes.
Which is interesting. But, you know, the reason I like Bright Minds so much is it really is our integrative medicine program to keep your brain healthy for the rest of your life.
Yes.
And I initially developed it for memory, and then I went, oh, this is depression rescue. This is addiction rescue.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
how do I keep my brain? We end mental illness. So the end of mental illness begins with brain health.
I love it. I love it. All right, rapid fire Q&A from some other people on Instagram. Let's see. We talked about that one. Best tips for recovering from concussion. Let's go here. So my new trainer of the last couple of years, Richard Farley Jr., big shout out to Rich, says, what are the top 3 things I can do to start immediately optimizing my brain health? I mean, you've given 100.
Well,
top
the
3.
first one is every day. Just start asking yourself, is this good for my brain or bad for it? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the big one. And then you just have to know the list.
Yes.
The second thing that I do every day is when I wake up, I say to myself, it's actually on the top of my to-do list, is today is going to be a great day.
Yeah.
And the reason I do that is because then my brain will find out why today is going to be a great day. And I have like a really busy day today. And I'm like, today is going to be a great day. And I get to
Yes.
hang out with you.
Yep.
And I get to do some other things. I'm going to see my grandchildren tonight.
Yeah.
Rather than feel overwhelmed, my brain directs.
Change your focus, change your life. Yeah.
And then I take my supplements in the morning.
Yeah.
I just do it.
Yep.
Right. And for me, I'm not like a 3 times a day person because I'm busy. I take them in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, it's an act of service to myself.
Yes. I'm at 2 times a day, right? I take my focus formula in the morning. I take my, I do all my vitamin D stuff after I've had lunch, right? I do enzymes also right before I eat. And I do the omegas throughout the day.